Our scripture for this evening comes from Psalm 63, verses 1 and 2. Psalms chapter 63, verses 1 and 2. No matter how hard we try, life provides difficult moments, experiences, and encounters. We can't avoid them. We can't do anything to stop them. We can't even decide which day they come. Problems and pain and people and the perils of life are sure to find us. It's kind of like what we might call being in the wilderness, a place in which we find ourselves isolated. It may be that we isolate ourselves. It may be that others isolate from us. But in the wilderness, we are often wounded, we're often worried, and we're often weak. But in the wilderness, we can go from being wounded, worried, and weak to worshiping God because of the awesomeness of who God is and the demonstration of his awesomeness in our lives. An example of this is found in Psalm 63, looking at David in the wilderness. Starting with verse number 1, it says, "O God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you, my flesh longs for you in a dry and thirsty land where there is no water. So I have looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory." As great of a man as David was, Israel's conquering king, the historical significance behind his administration and how God chose him and used him, starting with defeating the giant Goliath, not to mention some of the other battles that he had to deal with, the Amalekites, for example. Of all of the heroic things David did, he found himself in the wilderness. Some have stated that this may have been when he was running from his son Absalom, who tried to overthrow his administration and take control and reign of power. Others argue that it was perhaps some other episode in his life. Whatever happened, or whatever the reason that he found himself there, he's in the wilderness of Judah, experiencing what we experience when we're in our wilderness, the wounds, the worries, and the weakness of human existence. But he finds joy in the midst of his wilderness. He finds strength, he finds encouragement, something that you and I can certainly benefit from. I want you to take note of this particular passage, Psalm 63, and just look at verses 1 and 2. In verse 1, the thing that we see is that he learned, if ever in his life he needed to learn, and if never in his life, he certainly learned the power of exalting God. He says, "O God, you are my God." Notice two words in the verse, "O" and "my." "O," it's what's called an interjection in the Hebrew writings, and it simply means a means of saying something with excitement, something that is meant to be stated in such a way that it should not be received in a monotone or boring way, but it expresses great excitement or emotion. "O God." Then he says, "You are my God." The word "my" is personal. It's not the God of my parents or the God of my family, but my God. A personal connection and a personal relationship with God. We may find ourselves in the wilderness because of our health problems, a wilderness because of economic problems, a wilderness because of discouragement, depression, so many other things that can happen to us in life that can symbolically put us in the wilderness. Death of a loved one, disasters that happen to us, discouraging life experiences. But in that, you go from the wilderness to worship when you truly exalt God and admit your utter need for Him and exalt Him in every way in your thoughts and in your everyday intentions, attitudes, and actions. Second thing that we notice about his wilderness experience is not only did he exalt God, but he sought God early and was eager about God. Notice the word early in verse 1. Early will I seek you. This word has two references. First, it's a reference to time, meaning that the priority of his day, he began his day with God on his mind. God should never be an afterthought to us. He should never be happenstance or incidentally. But every waking moment, and certainly the initial moment of arising from sleep to slumber, should cause us to acknowledge him, to focus on him, and to be guided by him. Early sets the tone for the rest of the day. It should not just be at night when we go down to the bed to lay our head to rest that we start to think about praying, but we ought to pray and prioritize our relationship with God early. But the word early has an even deeper meaning other than just time. It also references eagerness, and that is an excitement about God. Early meaning the sense of priority and preference that he gives to God and the preeminence of his agenda. God is top on this list. He's excited about God. Are we excited about him? And third, what we see is that God is enough for him. He says, my soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you in a dry and thirsty land where there is no water. This is symbolic language to say that in this life and in this world, there are things that just cannot satisfy us. Sure, there are things that can distract us. There are things that can pacify us. There are things that can entertain us. But we were created to need God and to be satisfied by the privilege that we have of his power and his presence in our lives. And so when he speaks of thirst and longing and the dry and thirsty land, he is saying there is no material or monetary thing that can truly satisfy us, because what we're really longing for, even if we don't know it, is that we're longing for God. There are things that we can do to try to cope when we're in pain, when we have problems, when we're dealing with perils, when we find ourselves having to deal with people. But none of those things are sufficient to satisfy us. They may distract us, but they'll disappoint us. They may entertain us, but they won't edify us. We are but empty vessels when we're not enriched by what God has to offer us to satisfy us and to quench us. So if you find yourself in the wilderness for whatever reason, you can worship God and move from a wilderness of woundedness, worry, and weakness to joy, to peace, because of the God that we serve. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister.